Hello everyone, thanks for joining me again and welcome back to Mr. Smelly's Fragrance Reviews. So, following on from the overwhelming response to my guest feature in the last video with Captain Scentsible, I've got him in this video too, and he's going to give us his thoughts on today's fragrance, Egoiste by Chanel. But after that, I will give you my full review as well. But of course, let's hand it over to the man of the moment for his brief thoughts on this one. So over to you, Captain Scentsible.
Hello Mr. Smelly, thank you very much for having me on your show again. So this is Chanel Egoiste, and this one was released in 1911. The perfumier is Julien Clery. This fragrance is a gourmand. That means that it's aimed at fat people. The notes on this one are rosewood, coriander, sausage and egg McMuffin, vanilla and peeping Tom. Now, the projection on this one, projection is very good. I took this one to Tottenham at home to West Brom in the league on Saturday, and this is my backup bottle. I took my original bottle and I threw it at one of the opposition fans, and it projected very well through the air. In fact, it hit them on the head and knocked them out. It was an elderly lady who'd been winding me up all game. She'd been mouthing off. Every time her team got the ball or did something good, she kept clapping and cheering and saying, "Come on, you West Brom." I hate it when people do that at Tottenham. Anyway, after that, the steward came and told me I couldn't stay anymore. He kicked me out. So that's the thanks you get for supporting your team. Right, so if I had to give this one a mark out of 10, I would give it 8 out of 10, but I don't have to give it a mark out of 10, so I won't. Thanks very much for watching, and remember my catchphrase, wear what I say you should like and not what you love. Okay, please like and subscribe. You can follow me on Xhamster, Twitter, Facebook, and Projectophile. See you soon. Like and subscribe. Bye.
Thank you very much indeed to Captain Scentsible for giving us your thoughts on this one. So now for my thoughts, for what it's worth. Let's have a look then. So Chanel Egoiste. This fragrance was released way back in 1990. It's been in and out of availability a little bit, I think, since then, and it's not the easiest one to find. You can find it in Chanel boutiques, so if you're in a department store where they have a wide range of Chanel stuff, that's where you're going to find this one. In your average store that just sells the main well-known Chanel fragrances, the designer ones, it's not likely to have it, so it's not the easiest one in the world to find. My particular example here is from the packaging that is now discontinued. The new version looks a little bit more like this. I'm not sure if there's been a reformulation, so this is not a real vintage old one from the 90s or anything, but some people say there's been a slight change recently in the smell. I cannot say that I've noticed much difference having sniffed this one numerous times in the shop recently. So this description should apply to all current available versions. All right, so Chanel Egoiste, released in 1990. The perfumier was Jacques Polge, the main Chanel perfumier. And he has apparently said that it's one of his finest creations. I think he may even said it's the one he's most proud of in all of the fragrances and many wonderful fragrances that he's produced for the House of Chanel. So that's praise indeed coming from the great man himself. So originally, back in 1987, Chanel released a fragrance called Bois Noir, which means black or dark wood, I think. And this was not hugely successful, wasn't widely available, but was the forerunner of this one. The people at Chanel decided to resurrect that fragrance in 1990 under the title of Egoiste. It had a really famous advert on the TV that was rather good and rather creative. So how does this one smell? What are the notes? Let's find out. In the top then we've got Sicilian tangerine and Brazilian rosewood, or if you look in some places it says mandarin instead of the tangerine. Either way. In the mid then we've got rose. In the mid, we've got coriander, rose, and cinnamon. And in the base, we have sandalwood, vanilla, and ambrette seed. So, interesting notes there. The smell on this one then is, as those notes would probably lead you to believe, it's basically spicy, it's woody, and it's a little bit sweet. So this is a very deep, rich smelling scent. There isn't an awful lot of freshness for me in this one at any point. There's mandarin or tangerine are in there, but you never really get a particularly zesty citrus feel with this one. Straight from the beginning, what you're overwhelmed by is a spicy, woody feel. You've got rosewood even in the top note, so wood as a top note in this one, and a wonderful sandalwood note underneath that. So it's a fantastically rich scent. It's not really an old school scent that reminds me of the 80s. It doesn't remind me of things like Kokoros or the other old one from Chanel, Antaeus, but it somehow has a slightly classic feel. We get quite a lot of nice spiciness throughout the life of this one, and there's a sweetness with this one. There's vanilla in there, and also ambrette seed can give a sort of nutty, musky feel, which can be somewhat sweet. So a really interesting mixture of slight sweetness, understated sweetness, I would say, with some very complex woodiness that develops in a way that is really reminiscent of a niche fragrance. A lot of people have said that before me, and have said that this could be one of the Chanel Les exclusives. And I tend to agree. It really smells like it's something unusual in the designer world, which is maybe why it wasn't an unqualified success for Chanel, and why it's probably not one of their most promoted or biggest selling fragrances. The bottle looks really nice. It's simple, but it's classy. It's got that Chanel tastefulness about it. So you know, they can really teach people like Paco Rabanne and Jean-Paul Gaultier thing, I think, when it comes to presenting a classy product that doesn't need any silly gimmicks to sell itself. I have found, since I haven't had it very long, I've worn it a few times, and I've really found that it's one of the most impressive designer fragrances that I've got, and it's fast contending for me to perhaps be my favourite Chanel, but the newest one's always my favourite, I guess. It has a really mature feel about it. It seems like the kind of fragrance you probably would appreciate more if you're 30 and over. People of any age could undoubtedly wear it, however. It certainly feels like a dressing up kind of fragrance, not a casual one, and it's going to be suitable for colder seasons of the year, probably most of the year round actually, but just not in really hot weather. So spring, fall and winter will be great times for this one. It's a night out scent mostly for me, maybe a work scent, but you're going to give a slightly too noticeable aura, I think, with this one, because it's quite a strong performer. All the reviews I've seen have agreed that the performance is very strong. It's an eau de toilette, but it really is at the strongest end of the eau de toilette performance spectrum in my limited experience of it so far. It seems to hang around for hours and hours. I've been to bed with it on, and I've woken up the next morning. The smell is still very strongly present. So performance, no problem with this one. Reasons that you might be interested in this one: if you like woody scents, if you like spicy scents, and if you want something classic but that is not dated smelling, this is a really good place to look. I did a recent review on Antaeus that I've mentioned earlier, and this does have a somewhat dated feel. I'm still happy to wear it. It's classic, it's classy, and it's brilliant. But this one, it's a bit more sweet. It's a bit more spicy. Antaeus doesn't have much sweetness or really spiciness in it. It's got a much more masculine, old school feel. This one, it's really hard to place it. Is it modern? Not really, no. Does it feel like an old 70s or 80s fragrance? Not quite. It came out in 1990. Doesn't tie in with many of the 90s classics like Jean-Paul Gaultier, Le Mal or L'Odyssée or Acqua di Gio. Really stands on its own as a unique and distinctive designer fragrance, and that's the appealing thing about it. It's also a little bit of an unsung one, so if you want to stand out, if you want to wear something different to what everybody else is wearing, you like Chanel, but you don't want to wear Bleu de Chanel, you know, you don't want Edition Blanche or one of the more sort of easy to like, nice, lemony, fresh ones. This is a great place to look. I think this would give the man wearing it a real air of sophistication and class, and I think that this fragrance has a certain enigmatic quality about it that's really hard to place. The ambrette seed in it gives it this kind of nutty twist. I get a sort of some people have talked about some slightly animalic body odorish notes in this one. I don't get any of those. So unlike it, things like Antaeus have a little bit more animalicness to me. This one seems just sweet, likable, woody, a little bit old school, but really hard to place. And that's, in a way, the exciting thing. It is hard to describe this one. It's a thankless task sometimes trying to describe a smell in a YouTube video. You've got visuals, you've got sound. The one thing that we can't have in these videos is to be able to smell what I'm talking about. So I have to use my powers of description, and I have been tested to do so with this one, because it really is hard to describe. What I can say basically is, if you have the opportunity to try this one in a store near you, you absolutely owe it to yourself as a fragrance interested person to give this one a go. So mark out of 10 for me on this one. I'm going to go with a 9.5 on this one. The only thing I would say against it is you kind of have to be in the mood. Things that have particularly struck me and impressed me, I really like the sandalwood note in this one. I find it gives me that happy feeling of sandalwood that I love, that I also get with the Bois de Portugal, one of my favourites. They don't smell very similar. That's much more green, a little bit more bitter smelling, doesn't have that vanilla sweetness of this one, but they're kind of two fragrances you might reach for in the same mood. This one maybe a little bit more dated, this one perhaps a little bit more universally appealing. So Egoiste for me, 9.5, only negative on it, you've got to be in the mood maybe. It's not the most versatile scent in the world. Signature scent worthy? Well, yes, for a night out kind of signature scent, yes. For a night out signature scent, for a mature, sophisticated gentleman, yes. To wear every day to work, maybe, but you've really got to own this one and be an alpha male, so a little bit intimidating perhaps for some people to catch wafts of the Egoiste every day. Egoiste, of course, means selfish, I think, in French, and I don't know about selfish, but it does have the air of a rather self-confident gentleman, and if you want to project that to the people around you and project quite a nice, strong, masculine aroma, I highly recommend that you check out Chanel's Egoiste. Thank you very much for joining me. Remember, whatever we're doing in life, let's project. You can keep voting for the league table video down below in the comments of your favourite fragrance, and I will be doing an update video on that very soon. See you next time. Bye-bye.